how do I save up that money? And it's a matter of choices. It really is a matter of choices. Let me tell you an example. I have a buddy, Andre C. Hatchett, and another buddy named S. Tia Brown. S. Tia Brown used to be one of the editors at Essence Magazine. Andre is just a great guy who lives in Atlanta, who I work with all the time. I love this guy. Andre and Tia told me separate stories that I really respect about how they became homeowners. You know what they did? And actually, there's another person I'll throw in there, Madam President Chanel Walker. That's another one that's that I'm close to. And so each of these individuals basically decided that being a homeowner was a top priority. So in each case, they told me an individual story about how they made some type of sacrifice that allowed them to eventually own a home. For Andre was making $18 an hour and he was trying to buy a house in a very difficult place. He was in the Bronx or Brooklyn. It was Brooklyn. Brooklyn or the Bronx. I don't remember which one. I think it was Brooklyn. Homes are expensive in Brooklyn. They're really expensive. And he was making $18 an hour and he just sacrificed. He said, I'm gonna sacrifice 2 years so that I can be a homeowner for the rest of my life. So he sacrificed, saved his money, scrapped his nickels, cut costs where he could, and he pulled together the money to buy his first home. And then at that point, he was on the wealth train. He was on the economics superhighway. He had a financial vehicle that was getting him down the road. Why? Well, because inflation, one of the biggest areas that inflation hits is home values. Home prices go up when inflation hits. So he went from being a victim of inflation to being a beneficiary of inflation. Do you understand what I'm saying? Let me know if you get what I'm saying. He went from being on the side where the rent is too damn high to being on the side of, wow, this is great. Rent prices keep going up. I'm making more money and my home value is going up. He was renting his places out. Now, again, I'm not sitting here saying that, that landlords are wonderful people all the time. Hopefully, if you're a landlord, you're going to be an ethical landlord, but I'd rather have you be the landowner than the person who is renting from the landowner. So that's the second area where black wealth gets thrown out the window. Overspending, being all consumer, not a producer, and being all renter and not an owner. Where's the third area that black wealth gets drained? And this is probably the biggest. It's to the trillionth power, and that is the fact that millions of you are training your children to go work for white people. That's what you're doing. You're not training them to build businesses. You're training them to work for businesses. You're not training them to own assets. You're training them to become an asset. And so when I see the graduations and I see people praise twerking in the aisle, jumping up and down, hair weaves flying everywhere. Some of the dudes doing backflips. I saw one guy try to do a backflip on stage and he busted his teeth out. When I see all these graduation celebrations, I'm the person who sits here and thinks to myself, okay, what exactly are we celebrating now? Now I'm not saying I'm not making fun of you because your backflip didn't work out. I'm not saying that there aren't things worth twerking for. I'm saying, what are you really twerking about? And how do we keep this from looking like a buck dancing plantation scenario where we are simply celebrating the fact that we now have a validation that Massa will accept that allows me to become his employee? That's I don't know if that's necessarily a flex. I don't. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying I don't know if it's a flex because I've told you that this economic system is not built to benefit workers. And this ain't even just black people. Black people just get the worst of it, but American workers are getting screwed in this country. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so if you are a worker, you got to have you got to have an outlet. You got to have another stream of income. You at least got to have two incomes coming in that house. You better get along with that man and get along with that woman, right?